Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Saturday, September 27th. I'm your host, Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst and certified financial planner. I'm joined by Mark Talercio, who is also a certified financial planner, and he is also the executive producer of this show, of our other shows, Jill on Money Pod, the Jill on Money radio show. He runs the Jill on Money website. Mark, it's just a lot of Jill for you, isn't it?
It's a lot of Jill all the time.
Oof, I'm sorry for you. I feel that this is probably a big hindrance to us having a personal relationship outside of work in some ways, because you hear me talk all the time and it must be just agonizing. God,
need some space, right?
Yeah,
even when we flew to Asia, Jill's in the ear.
Oh, I'm sorry for you, man. I'm so sorry. I really am. Mark, I was just recently telling the story about how we kind of came up with this podcast format where we really talk about answering questions as opposed to interviewing people. And I love to interview people, as you know, Mark. It's one of my favorite things. But when we had a sponsored podcast, when we had big companies writing the checks, they always had these marketing people would come in and say to me and Mark, like, you know what you should do? You should interview this person who has this many bazillion followers, and this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be great. And then, Mark, what happened when we interviewed those people?
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks that just because you're interviewing a big name, it's going to lead to like these massive downloads or numbers, and it never really quite happened that way.
It didn't happen for us that way, even when we had really great interviewees. I mean, there are some people that we interviewed who Mark and I loved, and we always go back and play that. We go into the archive, and, there are so many times where we play these really cool interviews that we loved, but it wasn't as if there weren't people doing that already. So Mark and I kind of went back to both of our roots, which is radio. And the idea of having a format where someone just called in and asked a question, and then we would answer it. And so this really took off during the pandemic when we just got absolutely inundated with questions from people. It was so scary. And I think we have successfully built a community of people who are interested in their financial lives, but they're not interested in necessarily saying, like, I want to be the best investor. If you watch CNBC, great for you. If you watch Bloomberg, great for you. I just don't think that's how most people lead their lives. They want to get their financial house in order. They want to make sure that they're not making any boneheaded mistakes. And they really just want the building blocks necessary to get where they want to go. And that is what this show is about. That is what we do here. And so if you've got a question, if you've got a concern, go to jillonmoney.com. You click the Contact Us button. It's in the upper right-hand corner, and write us a note. And when you are done writing that note, there's a little question. Would you be willing to come on the air live with us? If the answer is yes, then feel free to check the box. Mark will do everything else. And if the answer is no, we do email episodes. And sometimes I take some of the questions that come in and I use them as part of my television segments. Yeah, I beg, borrow, and steal. I got to get the content. Sometimes your questions are so good that I really feel like if you're asking it, there's lots of other people asking it. So I recently went on CBS Mornings, our morning show, and I did a segment that we call Ask Jill, which is borrowing from this show and borrows from the Jill on Money podcast. And I think that it was great because we got this question. I have gotten this question over and over. We start out with some questions about when people get together in partnerships or marriages. And so I wanted to just air this segment, which was on CBS Mornings. The anchors are Tony DeCopel and Adriana Diaz. Here's the Ask Jill segment. And on the other side of it, I'll tell Mark some of the questions that we didn't get to.
So the first question comes from actually one of our staff members who we promised to keep anonymous, and we will. I actually have no idea who it is. The question is it okay to cancel credit cards, or should it be avoided at all costs?
Okay, here's the thing with credit. It is a weird compilation of information. So here is how a FICO credit score is actually calculated. There's a part of it that's just your payment history. It's the amount of credit that's available. It's how long you've had it open. And what's interesting is when you cancel a credit card, it's actually a negative negative impact on your score. So let's say you're done, you've paid off this credit card, you're not going to use it anymore. As long as there's no fee attached to that card, stick it into the back of the drawer, stop using it. Don't cancel it because it negatively impacts your credit score.
Follow up to that, when you get married, does your partner's credit score affect yours?
Well, each of us has our own credit score. The only way that your partner or your spouse's credit is impacted by yours is if you're applying for credit together. The most common pathway is we apply for a mortgage together. Now, let's say your partner is a bust out, terrible credit, you're fabulous. If that's the case, when you apply together, the good person's score can help boost the person who has a lower score. But I really want to tell everybody, and I'm going to be very clear about this, please avoid applying for credit cards together because you don't need to do that. You can have another sign, you can have approval for someone to do it, but someone's bad credit score can drag your good credit score down, and then when you need it, it's bad for both of you.
Oh, good advice. All right. So Ken from Pennsylvania wants to know, what are the advantages or the disadvantages to keeping income and expenses separate in a marriage? Seems like a lot of meaningless paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, this is really up to you. It is very clear to me that there are some couples where pushing it all together, having one person manage the bill paying and managing the process really does make sense. But if you're going to do that, please communicate your system to the non-involved spouse. Now, if you want to keep things separate, that's okay too. People get married later. You've got your own lives. But you want to have probably one account where there is a repository for your joint bills. But you want to keep it separate? Fine. No big deal. Keep good records. Keep the communication lines open.
I want to talk about Veronica from California. She's 40, has a new job, and she has a 401k question. Pre-tax option and Roth option. What's the difference? What do you recommend?
Okay, so when you have a 401k, a 403b, any job-related retirement plan, there are two options that are available usually. One is a traditional 401k, 403b. That's pre-tax. What happens with that is money comes into your account, and it's basically not taxed yet. So if I say I'm putting $10 into this 401k, that $10 goes in, no tax that's due. When I take the money out later in life, after 59 and a half, whatever tax bracket I'm in at that time, that's when the tax is due. With a Roth, you pay the tax on that $10 today. The money goes into the account. It grows, it grows, it grows. You take the money out later, no tax due. For younger people especially, I love the Roth. Roth retirement plans actually help you really understand what your future tax liability is. So all Roth all the time, especially if you're under 40.
Hey, if you could do it quickly, I'm really interested in Shannon from New York asking, how much money should someone have in savings when thinking about having a child?
An unlimited amount, obviously. You guys would know that. We generally say you should try to have 6 months of an emergency reserve. If you're going to have a kid, let's try to get that to 9 months. But look at these expenses. Gang, something around $12,000 to $15,000 in the first year on things for like diapers and car seats. So I hate baby showers. I am allergic to them, but I think you should have a baby shower and get all of your friends and family to pay for as much of this stuff in advance. And if you invite me, I will send you a check and not arrive. So that's how I roll.
I was just going to say, if I have another one, you're coming.
Yeah, you betcha. I'm not coming, but I'll definitely send you the money.
Mark, I always love the question about credit scores and when you get married and whether you should apply for credit together and how that works. So I think that was a good place to start. And then we also got into this idea about, keeping your money separate when it comes to being married or not married. I think that's an interesting question. I think that there is also a big issue around trying to save for kids. And I think that's also an important question. We also sometimes get questions about people who've got money that they know they need in the next year. And they're like, how do I make money with that money? So we had a question from Al from Seattle who says, I have some cash on hand. I don't want to keep it in a boring savings account, but I want to know, is it better to use a money market or a CD? Is there an advantage to one versus the other? So Mark, we know that interest rates are going to start to come down. How do you look at the difference between a money market and a CD right now?
I mean, not a big difference. I mean, the one obvious difference is that, a CD, your money is tied up. And if you need the money before the term is up, you're going to have to pay a penalty. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge penalty, but there is a penalty. With a money market, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I think that what is also important is that when you look at this, I want to emphasize money that you know you're going to need in the next 12 months or even 18 months, don't invest it. This is a trap. This is the trap that people fall in all the time. It's an emergency reserve. It's got to be there. It has to be there for you when you know you're going to need it. Mark, I got a question from Alan who said, my company has offered a service that will manage my 401k for a fee. Should I do it? What do you think, Mark? A fee for a lot of companies are now having these third parties come in and say, hey, we'll manage your 401k for you. It costs, a 0.5 percentage point a year. Yay or nay?
I'd have to know more, but on the surface, I'm saying nay. I mean, just pick a target date fund and leave it alone.
I mean, I just think that often that these fees are not usually worth it. If you're a terrible investor and you're going to the alternative is I'll be in cash. Yeah, sure. But as Mark said, most plans will have at least a target date fund or some sort of life cycle fund that you can just choose. Do that. I wouldn't pay for that. Andrea from Illinois just inherited some money unexpectedly and says, I don't need this money right now, but I really want to get some security with it. I got some bad investment advice early in my life. What should I do? Okay, let's say you hate risk and you really just say, I can't possibly do this. Then sure, maybe you can, as we said, talk about laddered CDs. Maybe you can, at least get the money working for somewhere between 1 and 6 years where you can lock it in. But can you stomach just a little bit of risk? Could 20% of this money go into a stock index fund and the rest be in laddered CDs? Some amount of money that you could put at risk. Again, she says she's not going to need the money for 10 years. If we could just get some of that money working, the reason that is helpful is that we still need to beat the inflation rate. And if interest rates are heading lower and you don't want to be on a big ride, is some portion of this money available to actually put at risk that won't keep you up at night? I think that's the question. If you can handle that, it'd be so great. That would be so great. I know that there are people who just can't deal with having risk. I get it. I just would really like to encourage you to take some piece of peel that off and say, I can manage that. Okay. All right, Mark, anything else that you have on your mind before we call it quits for the day?
Another fabulous edition of Ask Jill. I think back, you mentioned before we aired the segment, my roots are in talk radio. And, 25, 26 years ago when I was producing talk shows, a good talk show was comprised of good callers. And I always think people love to hear other people ask questions because oftentimes they have the same question, but maybe they're a little too shy to come on and ask it. So I love the format that we do. I love bringing on people to ask their questions. It just reminds me of my talk radio days.
I love it as well. And I love the stories. Mark and I are both voyeurs. That's also why we like it. And we know you are too. So if you do have a question and you're shy, maybe we'll answer it in a TV segment. I always change names. Don't worry. I don't out anybody. But we'd love to talk to you on our program as well. So go to JillOnMoney.com. Click the Contact Us button. Write us a note. If you want to join us live, check the box. Mark will do everything else. Check out the free weekly newsletter. Check out the resources. Check out our other program called Jill on Money. That's our podcast Monday through Friday. And there are videos. Everything is right there. Check it all out at JillOnMoney.com. You can subscribe to us on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. You could leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. Mark Talercio is the co-host, executive producer, and king of all things web. We are distributed by Paramount Skydance. We drop our episodes on Saturdays and Sundays. Try to do something nice for someone else today. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.